Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and Crimsix has finally given his thoughts on the OpTic's Texas situation, stating the team would perform much better for a different organisation and for a different brand. The pressure of playing for OpTic and for Scump has taken its toll on the team, and a change is now indeed necessary. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into. Firstly, some kind of sad news here coming out of the APAC scene. Some of you guys might know Shotzzy from back in the day. Definitely a notable player from that scene. He's now retiring, moving on. Really difficult down there to get your shot in the kind of, well, in the North American side where most of the CDL, despite, theoretically being worldwide, is based. We've seen players like Cruz, for example, come over to NA before and have made it work to a certain extent, but making it work long term is just so difficult for many of these guys, and it's not just that region, but all around the world that we're seeing a lot of retirements coming out of the last couple of weeks. An actual good trio ink here I thought was pretty good, though, that Chandler managed to pull. We saw yesterday the Clayster Cellium and duo ink, which I thought was kind of strange, but this is a legitimate trio. Clay, Zuma, Attach, of course. These were made, I suppose, right at the start of the Cold War season when Clay and Zuma were both on the subliners, and Attach at that point had just left to go to the Minnesota Rokkr, but nonetheless, these guys are legendary trio from certainly back in the FaZe clan days, especially from Advanced Warfare and, of course, Black Ops 3 as well, even though not too much success that year. They still competed themselves, well, together into Infinite Warfare as well, and, unfortunately, we're not going to see Zuma back anytime soon unless he wants to return, because he's been throwing an 8 and stuff the last few days, so I still think he's got what it takes, but returning probably doesn't make too much sense for Zuma right now, unless he really wants to. Also, quick note on Parasite moving to Austin in a week or two, Austin, Texas, of course. So Parasite is always, well, he's always lived on the West Coast, right, in LA and stuff, or around California. Now he's going to move to Texas, which I guess is indicative of his intention to really take challenges quite seriously. He's back to competing again. I don't know how many times Parasite has retired in his career and now come back, but it's probably a good few times at this point, and now he's making the return again, and he's clearly taking it seriously, because if you are taking it serious, right, we saw what Havoc did last season. He had the option to stay on the Florida Mutineers bench and, play for their challenger team, basically, or play in challenges from Florida near to the facility because they wanted him to stay local. He said, no, not doing that, terminate my contract, I'm going to go move to Texas for, be around better players in that environment, get better internet and stuff, and then I'm going to bet on myself and make it work. That's exactly what Havoc did, and now Florida have come crawling back and picked him up anyway, largely based on his performances in Tier 2 last season, where he had a great successful time playing out of Texas. So Parasite gone down a similar route. Hopefully it works out well for him. And also, quick note on some roster drama of the last few days. Just, Scrappy, it's only a very brief comment here. Basically what he says is, this guy Joe Deceives is terrible, doesn't deserve a spot. So pretty funny, really, pretty spicy stuff as well. Joe Deceives, we know, came up pretty much through ranked play, but also good friends with the FaZe guys. Was notable, now he's got a starting spot at LAG. We've seen some drama between Joe Deceives and Proloot, and now some drama between Joe Deceives and Toronto, with, Scrappy saying that this guy is terrible and doesn't deserve a spot in the league. So we'll see if he performs well. It's interesting because Joe Deceives has obviously got some talent, whether he's kind of league ready, whether he's got the communication, whether he's really got what it takes to make it work, because there is an argument that says LAG have made a mistake by dropping their professional players and bringing in their academy guys, just because the pro players over time, a lot of the academy guys will be better at the start of the game than they will be over the course of the season, just because the challenger players play more at the start of the year than the pros do. The challengers are usually going to be ahead of the pros as much as they will be at the start of the game. Over time, the pros should, maybe close that gap to an extent in terms of knowledge, and therefore the maybe greater ability the pros have will shine through, such that dropping your pro players after one event might not be the smartest idea. However, Joe Deceives obviously got some talent. I think probably a reasonable idea to just throw him into the fire and see if he's got what it takes, and either it works out for him, or maybe he has to get benched again and kind of takes a few months to get ready to go, then gets another shot. But plenty of these players don't believe Joe Deceives has got it, and get ready for some spice, let's say, when LAG play Toronto Ultra next up, and also when LAG play Vegas next up, which is also going to be a pretty good one. So already some drama on the horizon here that I see along those lines, and I think maybe it's going to be March time when these will play. Well, it could be before then, right, to the major and stuff like that, but not in any of the qualifiers. And I do also wonder what's next for, of course, Huke as well. We might think OpTic, but who knows? But also Neptune, because this guy was very much hyped up when he came over from Halo, was a great player in his brief Halo days, came over to Call of Duty at the start of Cold War, made some waves. Florida, of course, at the end of that season was looking very good. Of course, Vanguard didn't really work out too well for him, but still you could see the talent was there on occasion. Went to LAG towards the end of the title, was on New York at the start. But after one event on LAG now, he's been dropped again. To whether he, goes back to Halo or what his future is, it's going to be difficult to say, because, he went to challengers last year. He kind of bet on himself and made it work to get another spot in LAG, but it hasn't worked out at the start of this season. Now, we know that Octane has been carrying content the last couple of weeks. This guy's been out of control in his stream all across the board, but Crimsix has always been the king of content on this channel, and he's back in business, baby. He does an entire new podcast episode last night. Now, I mean, look at his stream setup as well. It's absolutely out of control. He's got the racing sim back here. He's got the wheel, got like the 4 monitor setup here, and then he's got the actual stream setup on the right-hand side. It's absolutely beautiful, I've got to say. But he did a podcast again. It's been a while since I've had one of those out of Crimsix, and he gives some very interesting thoughts, I thought, on the OpTic's situation, stating, of course, like, he's got plenty of experience on the OpTic brand, what it's like to play with those guys, what it's like to play for the fans, and kind of how the pressure can take a toll on the players that are on that roster. He reckons that playing for OpTic is kind of high risk and low reward. He reckons that you're expected to win, and even he believes, and he said in another clip that I'm not going to share here because this one's kind of long, but he said that, you know, back in the day when he was playing with the Dynasty, Scump, Formal, himself, and Karma, like, himself and Karma would get, like, no credit, really. Yes, they'd win, and people might say, yeah, good job, Crim, good job, Karma, but it was always Scump and Formal. They would get the MVPs, they would lap up the praise, whereas, you know, Crim and Karma obviously doing a massively important job for the team, not just in terms of slaying, but they wouldn't necessarily get the credit that Crim wanted himself to be, you know, attached to. But at the same time, nowadays, we've got this new team, which has obviously not had much success over the last few years. The OpTic brand, since in the last 5 years, the OpTic brand has made 3 grand finals, and they've won 2 championships. This is Black Ops 4 Vegas, this is Vanguard Major 1, and the other final they made was back in World War II at the Stage 1 playoffs. That's the last 5 seasons, and, you know, to think where they are now compared to where they were 6 or 7 years ago is kind of crazy to think about, right, in terms of the way OpTic have gone from having the Dynasty to where they are now. Is part of this down to the fan pressure? Crim seems to think that playing for these fans is such a difficult thing to do, and it takes a massive toll on the individuals because every loss kind of adds up to the point where the frustrations are growing within the fan base, and, you know, it actually limits the abilities of the players to perform at a high level.
You take Ender, Dashy, Shotzzy, Scump. You put them on Boston Breach with no fans. How you think they perform? I bet you a lot of the fans wouldn't really, they'll be like, same. But if I ask them that question, completely different answer.
What was the roster says? Shotzzy?
So like the
roster,
Major 1 roster.
right?
No, people got dropped, Dana.
Yeah, apparently people got dropped. So we're going to talk about that in the roster mania.
Yeah, and
Okay.
honestly, I haven't gotten an offer, so like, that hurt my ego. You know? That won't hurt. But anyways, yeah. What do you guys, because honestly, in my professional opinion, you know, you guys can think I'm right or wrong, but like, I've been there, done that. I've experienced it. That OpTic Gaming's lack of success is going to be a hot take to the idiots. But it's basically, man, the amount of pressure you have playing on that team is not, it's not even, it's like, how do I say this? October Sky to SpaceX.
What?
Anyways, point is, right, is that there's so much pressure on those teams. I don't really know how Seth feels about it because honestly, the guy's, you know, he's got bags on bags on bags. Like, he don't really, if I had that much money, I wouldn't feel pressure either. I'd be like, oh, whatever, right? But to the other 3, okay, and I experienced this, the worst part about playing on that team, and it's not intentional from Seth, from anyone. I'm actually trying to help OpTic and help the fans right now because honestly,
You love OpTic.
I'm kind of rooting for you guys.
You love OpTic.
No, I just like Shotzzy.
That's not very green wall of you.
And well, is Ender still on the team?
I think so. Still, like, nothing confirmed.
Shame on you, Shotzzy.
Nothing is confirmed.
You
pretty
betrayed
much.
your boy.
Nothing's confirmed.
Only one move has
You
been
betrayed your boy,
confirmed.
Shotzzy. So it's probably not intentional. Seth probably doesn't mean to do it. But when you win with Scump, you don't get much credit. But when you lose with Scump, you look outside at night, you see pitchforks and torches. They come for you. Bro, after one event.
So Crim obviously has his fair share of experiences playing for the OpTic brand, the OpTic dynasty, of course, experiences with Hector and the fan base and all of this type of stuff. And Crim knows full well when he was part of OpTic, the fact that he could turn on the stream, get, you know, free views, no problem at all. And then, you know, wasn't long after that he left OpTic that all of a sudden all his viewership just disappears. And they went to support the new OpTic guys, the likes of Dashy, etc. Dashy, in fairness, has been on that team now for about 5 years. This is going to be his 5th season on the OpTic team. Obviously, it hasn't lasted particularly long, but look, he's experienced the fan base for some time. But look, was the pressure getting to Dashy to an extent? Is the pressure getting to... I don't think the pressure is necessarily getting to Scump, because Crimsix was like, look, Scump's loaded anyway. I'm sure he doesn't really mind too much, but I still think that he does feel the pressure of the fans, especially when they haven't been performing. And it did feel like when they won Major 1 last year, there was like a real release of tension for the brand and the team, but that's now built up again over the last few months, to which point the team is now once again at breaking point. Now, I think his question was quite interesting though. If OpTic were playing for another brand, if they were playing for a Boston Breach, for example, with relatively no fans, would this team of 4 perform much better? Maybe they would. And certain individuals, I think Slasher would probably say he's one of them, that thrive off those pressure environments, but some individuals don't necessarily do that. And after spending many years, and I'm sure that likes of Dashy and iLLeY, after all the trash talk that they've received over the years, and also over, well, this past few months really for Dashy, it must affect their play to an extent. Like, Dashy must load into a lobby knowing there's all this criticism, knowing there's a kind of shadow hanging over his head, especially after what happened during this past off-season, going into the start of this year, expecting, you know, criticism if they lose. It's always a really difficult thing. This, of course, was pre-joining OpTic, where he says OpTic fans in Twitch chats are wild, and I'm sure Dash has experienced this over the last few years. To which point, is it affecting his ability? Is it affecting his play? Maybe it is. And maybe it's not only the pressure of playing for the OpTic Texas brand at this point, but it's also the pressure of playing alongside Scump in his final year. As OpTic come out with your favourite Scump hero, the Black Ops 2 hero, of course, and this was, I guess, Ghost, Advanced War, maybe this is Advanced Warfare, then of course this is Infinite Warfare, the World Championship win, and then more recently when they won Major 1 OpTic Texas last season. So, I mean, look, playing with Scump in his final year, we knew, and even Crimsix said before the season began, when Scump decided to extend his career, to be like, hey, these teammates, are they really going to give you their all? Because in theory, yes, the team should absolutely deliver their absolute utmost for Scump in his final year. The reality is it's not so easy, especially if there is more pressure, right? Because, like, the fan base doesn't want to see any players theoretically waste Scump's last year or anything. I'm sure the players on that team know full well. I mean, Shotzzy is kind of going to be a mainstay for years to come, more than likely with OpTic, but certainly Dashy and iLLeY, they know that if they underperform, they're going to get a serious amount of flack from this team. And Dashy's gone from kind of quickly being the golden boy of OpTic to now, you know, a lot of trash talk is thrown his way even by some of the OpTic fans. So I can understand why, as Crimsix says, it's difficult to deal with that and it's affecting their performances, to which point he seems to imply, like, you know, a change is necessary, really, because yes, these guys have been there for quite some time, the pressure is kind of getting to them to an extent, and maybe it is time just to blow it up and go their separate ways to get a bit of a fresh start, but at the same time, it doesn't mean the pressure is going to go away. So this is a thing in all sports, in fairness. I mean, obviously, athletes, professional athletes, and professional esports players, even though not necessarily athletes, have to be able to cope with this type of stuff, but, you know, some maybe find that more easy than others. And even Crim said that it wasn't straightforward for him when he was an OpTic back in the day, let alone some of these new guys with maybe far less experience on the team and far less victories under their belt. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Not exactly like there's a solution to this right from the OpTic side, but maybe just stating that it's time for a change regardless, to try and switch things up going forwards. And even, you know, this, for example, from Dashy after last season, damn, you know, thought this would be the one. Appreciate all the fans and the support. See you guys next year. So obviously it didn't last too long this year, we believe, but the fans are always top of mind at OpTic, and for understandable reasons. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Just one thing to close up with, thought was kind of cool here from Brian Satch. You guys might remember the fever dream that was the Florida Mutineers dominating the CDL for, I think, 3 events in a row. Maybe it wasn't quite 3 in a row. One of these was early on, then I think it was 2 in a row that they won towards the ends. But again, 3 home series wins. At the time, of course, it was, you know, Pharaoh, right? Havoc, Skies, Awakening it was here. I think Pristini was actually on this initial roster. Oh no, it was Mork, sorry, it was on this initial roster that they won with, and they made the change. Awakening came through. But in addition to Pharaoh, Frosty was such a key part of that lineup, and he's kind of indicating here that he might want to make a return at some point or another. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.